Tingle is a 35-year-old man. Suspended by a red balloon, Tingle draws detailed maps of Termina. He's a talented artist, and cartography is a valuable trade, but Tingle isn't satisfied. Because Tingle doesn't see himself as a man. He believes, with all of his heart, that he is the reincarnation of a fairy. Suddenly, the tight green bodysuit and eccentric mannerisms make sense. This is a man in denial. Tingle is trapped in his own imagination, his delusions clear to everyone but himself. And this doesn't stand out as odd in the world of Majora's Mask. Termina is a menagerie of some of the weirdest characters in the Zelda series. But he didn't only appear this once. Tingle went on to appear in multiple other games: The Wind Waker, the Minish Cap, Oracle of Ages, and even his own series of spin-off titles that were never fully released worldwide. Each appearance adds something to the twisted tapestry that is Tingle's tale, sometimes showing a more human, charming character beneath the suit, but also glimpses at a darker figure, a man consumed by greed. Tingle's creator and Majora's Mask's lead artist, Takaya Imamura, said that he originally designed the character to be kimo kawaii, equal parts cute and creepy. But now, he says, the cuteness has gone, and he only finds him creepy. The opinion of Tingle's creator is shared by many Zelda fans. Tingle is creepy. But is this his fault? Is Tingle really the monster we think he is, or is he just misunderstood? Today, let's examine the story of Tingle, the 35-year-old fairy. But first, a huge thank you to today's sponsor, Raycon Everyday Earbuds. Raycon were kind enough to send me out a pair of their everyday earbuds, and I've been using them every day for a few weeks now. Whenever I'm traveling anywhere or walking the dog, the tiny footprint of these things makes them so easy to take with me, and they've become my go-to on-the-go choice, especially since the release of Nintendo's music app. It's quite therapeutic to shuffle through Breath of the Wild tracks while walking, until the Guardian theme kicks in. Raycon sent me a pair of everyday earbuds in black, as well as a protective case in yellow, though you can choose one of a number of different colours. I was genuinely surprised by how powerful and clear the sound is from these things, and they include a new active noise cancellation feature too, meaning you get a really fantastic sound. Raycon Everyday Earbuds boast a 32-hour battery life, but even if you find that they're out of juice just as you're about to head out, it doesn't matter. They can quick charge, giving you around 90 minutes of battery after only 10 minutes on the charge. These Raycon Everyday Earbuds start at around half of the price of your regular premium earbuds, and this Black Friday, Raycon are offering up to 30% off site-wide. For the price, I really haven't found anything else with comparable sound quality. Again, a huge thank you to Raycon for supporting the channel. You can pick up your own pair at buyraycon.com/ZelticYT, also found in the description. Tingle can be found in all regions of Termina, and will sell Link maps of his surroundings. It's obvious when speaking to him that he's a little bit strange, and this was one of the main goals the designers had when creating him. Zelda director Eiji Aonuma said that the way the design of the character started is that we needed to think about how the player would get access to maps in this game. We thought, what if you had to buy maps? Then suddenly we needed a character that you would be buying maps from. We ultimately ended up with a character that had a little bit of humour to him that came from thinking of what sort of person would sell a map. And, well, we decided it would be the kind of person who makes the map. And the way he makes a map is by flying through the air so that he can see the contours of the land and draw them. But as soon as we got that far in the process, we realised anyone that would fly through the air making a map has got to be a really weird person. So at that point we decided, okay, we'll go with this and make him a really weird guy. And make him weird they did. Tingle doesn't just dress in a strange way, he's fascinated with fairies, to the point where he believes himself to be a fairy reincarnated as a man. He's even invented his own magic words, Kulu Limpa, a spin on the Japanese term Kuru Rimpa, which often accompanies the crazy cuckoo sign. Because of Link's outfit, Tingle calls him a forest fairy, and notes that, although he is already 35 years old, no fairy has come to him yet. It seems that, by forest fairy, he means Kokiri, the forest spirits from Ocarina of Time who Link was raised alongside, beings who take the form of children and are accompanied by guardian fairies. How Tingle would know about the Kokiri is a question in itself. While Termina is accessed through a kind of portal in the Lost Woods, near to where the Kokiri live, it does appear to be a separate world to Hyrule, albeit a strange, dreamlike world inhabited by doppelgangers of the people of Hyrule. There are other instances of Terminian characters expressing knowledge of Hyrule, however, like a Goron who mentions Dodongo's Cavern. Regardless, Tingle is clearly designed to be a kind of anti-Link. In another interview, Aonuma explains that Tingle was designed around the theme of not wanting to grow up. Aonuma makes the connection to Peter Pan, a character who famously wears green and never grows up, and who was perhaps the strongest influence on the design of Link, even down to him having a fairy companion. With Peter Pan in mind, Link and Tingle could be considered two opposite characters based on the same source material. A serious, mighty hero who is forced to grow up to save his kingdom, and a deluded, crazy man-child who refuses to. Tingle mentions that his father tells him to act his age, but he doesn't understand why. He believes, with all of his heart, that he is the reincarnation of a fairy. Link can actually meet Tingle's father. He's the owner of the Swamp Tourist Centre, and will mumble about his disappointing son.
Blimey, where is he? My spoiled son is slacking off again. A man his age has no business searching for fairies.
Tingle could be considered an example of an otaku, a Japanese term for someone with obsessive or consuming interests like video games or anime, often seen as social outcasts. Otaku are popular character archetypes in all kinds of Japanese media, quirky, lonely, but ultimately endearing. Because while there is something unsettling and creepy about a grown man obsessing over fairies while squeezed into such a tight outfit, there's nothing wrong with it. Majora's Mask's Tingle isn't harmful or dangerous, just a bit weird. He's nothing supernatural. He's very human, funny and melancholic in equal measure. Despite his relatively limited role in the game, Tingle quickly became one of Majora's Mask's most iconic characters, particularly in Japan. So it's no surprise that he would go on to appear in the next main series games, or one of them anyway, Oracle of Ages, where he, again, gives Link a map. Other than that, this appearance of Tingle isn't particularly interesting, unlike his next, the game which tarnished Tingle's reputation forever. In The Wind Waker, Link is rescued from the Great Sea and taken to Windfall Island by the King of Red Lions. Tasked with finding a sail for the boat, he explores this island market town, where he finds Tingle in jail. Like in Majora's Mask, Tingle mistakes Link for a fairy because of his green outfit. He claims that he longs to be one of the fairy folk, but he was mistaken for a troublemaker and imprisoned. After Link frees him, Tingle rewards the hero with an item, the Tingle Bottle in the HD version of the game, allowing Link to send and receive Miiverse messages, and the Tingle Tuner in the original, allowing the use of a Game Boy Advance as a peripheral. The back of Tingle's cell hides a secret, a passageway leading to a small cave. This is where Link finds the Picto Box, a treasure allowing him to take photographs of the world around him. But there's something off about this. This cave doesn't just contain a chest, it's full of skulls, eerily human remains. There's also a sign found here, reading, "Date unknown. At last, I have succeeded in stealing the Picto Box I have desired for so long." Succeeded, yes, but sadly, due to a slight mistake on my part, I was also caught. I have been imprisoned, but I do not give in easily. I refuse to give this wondrous box to my captors. I've decided to hide it here in the depths of my cell, and then make my escape by tunneling out. Yes, that is my plan. So whoever stole the Picto Box dug out this tunnel, meaning whoever stole the box is also responsible for the skulls. Was this Tingle's doing? It doesn't seem like it. By talking to one of the killer bees, Link can learn more about the Picto Box. A while back, this thief stole a Picto Box and he was held in the town jail for a long time. Yeah, real long. That thief managed to get free after a while, but the box he stole never got found. This could be referring to Tingle, but it seems quite unlikely. The story is told as if it happened a long time ago, while Tingle was imprisoned fairly recently. And in the HD version, we learn more about Tingle's arrest from Zunari, the salesman from whom Link buys the sail. Zunari explains that he travelled to Windfall Island with Tingle, but he was immediately arrested for his somewhat suspicious looks and thrown into jail, and in this version of the game, requires Link to free him before he can buy the sail. So, thus far, the Wind Waker's Tingle isn't particularly creepy. He's weird, like his Majora's Mask counterpart, but it doesn't seem like he was responsible for any serious crimes on Windfall Island. But that all changes later on in the game when Link arrives at Tingle Island. Tingle Island is home to Tingle Tower, a gigantic totem pole. It's where Link finds not only Tingle himself, but the Tingle brothers, who look almost identical, only wearing different colour suits. Ankle is younger than Tingle and wears pink, and apparently loves to tend the gardens on Tingle Island. His favourite proverb is apparently, "One may as well hang for a stolen sheep as for a stolen lamb," meaning if you're going to do something bad, you might as well go big or go home. Knuckle is Ankle's twin and wears blue. Though he's mischievous, he's an exceptionally talented carver. In fact, he was the one who built Tingle Tower, apparently finishing its construction when he was only 10 years old. And David Jr. wears white, but he's not related to the others. And it's through David Jr. that we get our first glimpse of a true darkness in Tingle, of an evil nature hiding beneath the tight green spandex. David Jr. explains that once upon a time, he was a sailor and had set out to sea in search of the fabled treasure of the ghost ship, a haunted vessel his father once saw. He was only 17 years old, and though he had experience sailing alone, when a violent storm struck his ship, he became trapped in a giant twister. When he awoke, David Jr. inexplicably found himself on Tingle Island, dressed like Tingle, forced to spin Tingle Tower forevermore. Tingle tells Link that wonderful fairy magic makes his tower spin, but this isn't true. It's Ankle and David Jr.'s endless manual labour. Though they're exhausted and frustrated, Tingle won't let them stop. The tower must continue to spin, and he has apparently enslaved not only his own brothers, but a random sailor too. David Jr. is without hope, and knows that telling Link his story won't get the crazy guy in green off his back. Tingle's mistreatment of his brothers is also mentioned by Knuckle, who notes that on days when Link contacts Tingle using the Tingle tuner, he's so very happy and is nice to his brothers, but when he doesn't, Tingle becomes out of sorts, so Knuckle begs Link to please talk to him more often. Tingle Tower's purpose is never explained. It's a gigantic totem pole carved by Knuckle, and each segment depicts a different monster or magical creature. The base is designed like choo-choos, then moblins, then fairies, and finally Tingle himself, fittingly at the top. There's an unused room in the files for the Wind Waker, which would, presumably, have been the interior of the head of Tingle Tower. It's referred to as Knuckles' studio, and is absolutely terrifying. Obviously, there's an issue with the same texture being mapped to the walls and ceiling as well as the canvas where it should presumably only be. What Knuckle has been painting is very hard to make out. It could be Tingle himself, a river Zora, or a fairy. All we know for sure is that it's pretty unsettling. Tingle's function in the Wind Waker is, yet again, related to maps. This time, he possesses the unique ability to decipher sea charts, in particular, Triforce charts. He'll decipher these ancient charts for the hefty sum of 398 rupees, meaning that to decipher all 12 Triforce charts, you're forced to pay Tingle a pretty outrageous sum of money. Clearly, Tingle has an obsession with rupees, and even though he admires Link and aspires to be like him, he charges an extortionate amount for his vital information. But exactly how extortionate his pricing is could be a further hint to the dark side of Tingle's character. 398 rupees is an oddly specific number, and reversed, it makes 893, in Japanese spoken as Yakuza. In the card game Oicho Kabu, this is the worst possible hand, and it's from this that the Japanese organised crime syndicate, the Yakuza, take their name. This could be a coincidence, but when considered alongside his greed, the fact Tingle has apparently enslaved his own brothers, and the cobra symbol on his back, apparently to intimidate his enemies, it's very possible that this is an intentional reference. Regardless, Tingle's obsession with rupees is notable in itself. Rupees aren't just currency. They're gemstones with magical properties, and in particular have a strong connection to fairies. In games like A Link to the Past and Breath of the Wild, it's shown that great fairies can harness the magic of rupees to grant them strength. And in the latter game, a great fairy explains that her powers have withered because fewer travellers have visited her fountain with offers of rupees. Considering Tingle's fixation on fairies, it's possible that he wants to gather so many rupees because of their magic power, because he believes that, somehow, they'll allow him to achieve his dreams of becoming a fairy. While the Wind Waker's Tingle retains the character's strange charm, it introduces a darker side. In his endless pursuit of fairyhood, he has evolved from the sympathetic oddball of Majora's Mask into something genuinely creepy. Following the Wind Waker, the next time Tingle appeared was in Four Swords Adventures, the multiplayer Zelda on the GameCube. While he has a relatively minor role in this game compared to the Wind Waker, his childish personality is evident. He's left signs in the game's levels, called the Tingle Times, explaining his story in each region, usually obsessing over fairies or wanting to join in with children's games. His greediness and selfishness are apparent here too. If the Links find a large force gem outside of a dungeon, Tingle will appear and try to steal it from the heroes. Tingle also appeared in the Minish Cap on the Game Boy Advance, along with his brothers. Together, they believe that kinstone fusions will allow them to meet fairies, though David Jr. questions why he helps them, considering he's not related. Tingle himself believes that kinstone magic will transform him into a fairy, which, of course, doesn't happen. The Minish Cap marks Tingle's final appearance in a mainline Zelda game, as he was absent from 2006's Twilight Princess. Sort of. In Castletown, Link meets Perlo, a scam artist who runs the Star game, designed to be unbeatable. Perlo was designed to be a more realistic take on Tingle. He wears a green hood, has the same mole on his face, and even wears a blue clock around his neck. While Perlo isn't Tingle, he's directly based on the greedier aspects of the character, again showing that the darkness within Tingle that the Wind Waker established is as much a core part of the character as the zaniness. So, although Tingle didn't actually appear in this 2006 Zelda game, he was in another. Developer Vanpool published a spin-off game centered entirely around Tingle, freshly picked Tingle's Rosy Rupeeland. While the game was a moderate success in Japan and was localized and released in the UK, it never reached the US, leaving it as a bizarre, relatively unknown Zelda game. Rosy Rupeeland begins with the player character leaving his house and travelling to the Western Pool, where he meets a mysterious character named Uncle Rupee, who promises the player character access to Rupeeland, a paradise where he'll never have to work again, eat the finest food, and meet beautiful women. I say the player character because the game does prompt you to name him, but won't allow you to name him Tingle. Instead, Tingle is revealed to be a state of being, something that a person can become if they are enslaved to the power of rupees. Tingles wear tight green suits, and rupees are their life force. They use rupees to fight, and if they run out of them, they will die. One of the game's main mechanics is bartering. Tingle needs to pay up when hiring bodyguards, opening up shops, asking for information, and even just to speak to some characters at all. But the game never offers any guidance on how much to pay. The player is completely blind and just has to guess and hope they land on an acceptable number. If you offer too little money for something, the person will just take the rupees without giving you anything in return. And if you ask for too few rupees as a reward for something, you'll get paid that, losing out on potentially huge amounts of money. It's a really difficult, obtuse system by design. When it comes to money, it's every man for himself. The goal is to pay as little and ask for as much as you can get away with. Throughout the game, Tingle continues to gather wealth and feed the pool where he met Uncle Rupee. Except, it's not just a pool, it's a tower, which will rise higher and higher the more rupees it receives. And every time Uncle Rupee appears to congratulate Tingle, his house and his clothes are nicer, more expensive than the time before. Like the Tower of Babel, this tower climbs higher into the sky, ever closer to the mythical Rupeeland. However, there's a twist. The Great Fairy reveals the truth about Uncle Rupee. Rupeeland isn't a utopia, it is hell. A world where everyone is transformed into a Tingle, a creature enslaved by greed, doomed to serve Uncle Rupee forever. Thus, Tingle's quest changes. Now he gathers rupees not to serve Uncle Rupee, but to destroy him. On the moon, where else, Tingle faces off against him, eventually destroying Uncle Rupee by turning the power of rupees against him. However, the game has two endings. There's the regular ending, the one where Tingle uses the massive quantities of rupees he's gathered for the good of everyone. Money rains from the sky, and Tingle, along with the citizens of Port Town, dance with glee. But there's also the true ending, the one the player will get if they've gathered all of the rupee goods, optional collectibles unlocked through exploration or side quests. This ending sees Tingle choose to use the rupees to get what he was promised, to pay for the life of luxury Uncle Rupee had described. He doesn't share anything and lives in a gilded mansion. He parties with groups of girls, eats entire banquets by himself, and spends entire days doing nothing at all. But is he any better than Uncle Rupee? He's got everything he ever wanted, but has he lost himself to greed and excess? Rosy Rupeeland is an exceptionally weird, but genuinely charming game. one which gives us a deeper look at Tingle's character and his relationship with money and greed. While it isn't considered part of the main Zelda canon and doesn't appear on the timeline, it does explore some interesting ideas, like how Tingle isn't a person, but rather a condition, a form taken on by normal people. It seems likely that Rupeeland's Tingle was based mostly on the Wind Waker's Tingle, taking his sinister undertones and insatiable hunger for rupees and building an entire game around it. Rupeeland's main character becomes a Tingle once he agrees to serve Uncle Rupee, and even though the game is considered non-canon, this idea fits extremely well with the greedy Tingle of the Great Sea. While Uncle Rupee is unequivocally the main villain, his plan is predicated on Tingle's greed and his desire to enter the mythical Rupeeland, to the point where, in what could be considered the game's canonical ending, Tingle essentially becomes the villain and replaces Uncle Rupee as an avatar of avarice. Rupeeland was the only Tingle game to leave Japan, and even then, it was only released in Europe, not the States. But it wasn't his only DS game. In fact, there are 3 other Japan-only Tingle games: Tingle's Balloon Fight, a reskin of Balloon Fight, the Too Much Tingle Pack, a collection of tools and mini-games which was available on the DSi eShop, and Ripened Tingle's Balloon Trip of Love, the sequel to Rupeeland, another full game by the same developer. While Rupeeland was a weird, but still somewhat conventional top-down RPG, Balloon Trip of Love is a different genre entirely, a point-and-click adventure game. And like Rupeeland, it serves as something of an origin story for Tingle himself, beginning with a new, separate character whose name the player can choose, a man explicitly not named Tingle. This time, he's living in a small flat in a modern city, depressed and lonely without a girlfriend. That is, until an advert on TV shows off a new storybook, one which will make the reader irresistible to women. He orders the book and opens it, but is sucked into its pages, transported to a storybook world where the game's main adventure takes place. Like Rupeeland, he is given the name Tingle alongside his iconic green suit, and embarks on an adventure, this time one heavily inspired by The Wizard of Oz, where Tingle must follow the yellow brick road, accompanied by Kakashi the Scarecrow, Buriki the Tin Woman, and Lion, the lion, with the goal of reaching the city and dancing with the princess. If possible, this game is even stranger than Rupeeland. Thanks in no small part to the love push, one of the game's central mechanics. Tingle's quest is about finding love, but his unconventional appearance has the unfortunate tendency of repulsing women. He remedies this by learning women's likes and dislikes, then showering them with gifts to win their hearts. This feels really weird, especially considering that the first woman Tingle tries the love push on isn't a woman at all, but a little girl, one whom the game notes will grow up to be pretty. This is obviously quite disturbing, and it seems likely that the love push mechanic played at least some part in the decision to not localize Balloon Trip. However, it is worth noting that, from an in-universe perspective, the game itself doesn't portray this mechanic as particularly creepy. In Balloon Trip of Love, Tingle is depicted as an ugly, clumsy, but ultimately lonely and sympathetic figure, made clearer during the ending of the game, where it's revealed that his entire quest has been part of the villain's plot, to exploit his desire for romance and companionship. It leans very hard into an extremely common trope in many Japanese media of men who are lustful, but not evil, who constantly fawn over and are rejected by the women around them. Characters like Dragon Ball's Master Roshi or One Piece's Sanji fit this description. From a Western perspective, it is incredibly off-putting, but in the context of the Japanese culture in which the game was made, it probably wasn't intended that way, and was meant as a joke, another weird and wacky side to Tingle's character. This is in contrast to the explicit greed of the Tingle of the previous game. Balloon Trip's Tingle is strange and misunderstood, but not outright evil. But that might have been the case if Vanpool had developed another Tingle game. In 2018, Kensuke Tanabe revealed in an interview that they had been developing a horror game starring Tingle back in 2010, but that the project was cancelled for a variety of reasons. We don't know anything about what this game would have been like, whether it would have been a Luigi's Mansion style horror game with a lovable, clumsy protagonist thrust into a spooky setting, or if it would have focused on the creepiness of Tingle himself for the game's plot. It's a shame, because while Rupeeland and Balloon Trip are extraordinarily weird, they're both legitimately good games, and it would have been great to see Vanpool take another swing at the character. Since his DS games, Tingle has been largely absent from the Zelda series, outside of a few Easter eggs like a wanted poster in Phantom Hourglass, a plushie doll in Zelda's room in Skyward Sword, and his outfit appearing in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Another reference to Tingle can be found in Breath of the Wild, where Link can read books written by a great chef known as Ori Tamu. We learn a lot about this culinary legend, like how he was involved in a love triangle with Ashe and Isha, but he never appears in-game. But strangely enough, he might have been a version of Tingle. Chef Oritamu Volume 1 reads, "It is said that fairies truly do exist in the world, but that they will only appear before an individual with a pure soul. One theory suggests some special kind of cooking might be possible if you used the power of a fairy. I, Oritamu, have been a pure soul for over 35 years. I expect my fairy will arrive any day now." But aside from that, it seems like Tingle will remain a relic of Zelda's past. And this is largely because of the fact that people, especially those in the West, really just don't like him, and Nintendo knows it. In 2013, Kensuke Tanabe, who previously worked on A Link to the Past, Link's Awakening, and Ocarina of Time, acknowledged this hatred. "I know how hated the character of Tingle is in the US. I know that people cannot stand Tingle. But to me, the challenge is, could I take this character that is so reviled in the West and do a complete turnaround and make him a beloved, fun character? The idea of that really just gets me going. I know we've made a Tingle game in the past, but maybe at some point down the road." Of course, this new take on Tingle never materialized. Tanabe never got the opportunity to try and give the character a second chance. And earlier, in 2006, Nintendo of America posted a survey on their official website, open only to My Nintendo Americas in North America, asking whether they'd want to see Tingle's Rupeeland released in the States. And it didn't pass. There wasn't enough interest, which is why the game was only ever released in English in the UK, and probably contributed to why Balloon Trip of Love never left Japan at all. Reading old forum posts from 2006 gives us a sense of the vitriol people felt towards the character. Well, I did my duty to keep that game out of the US. This is one game I'd prefer to keep Japan only. Real friends don't let friends play with Tingle. Just say no to Tingle. In the end, the answer to the question of why is Tingle so creepy is because he's meant to be. Like his designer Takaya Imamura said, he was designed as kimo kawaii, equal parts cute and creepy. He's a character who is almost impossible to define, who is by his very design weird and difficult to truly understand. There are multiple examples of Tingle doing explicitly evil things, like his capitalistic, insatiable greed in The Wind Waker and Rosy Rupeeland, but there are plenty of examples of the character depicted as a harmless, even lovable fool. His flaws, greed, selfishness, delusion, are as important to his character as anything else. He's not a hero, but he's not completely a villain either. He's an anti-hero, designed to be a nega Link, an inversion of the hero and his values. In many ways, Tingle is the Wario of the Zelda series, an overweight, bad version of the series' protagonist, a character obsessed with greed, who is adored in Japan for his quirkiness, but less appreciated overseas. He's a character that just does not translate well outside of his home region. He's too strange, too exaggerated for the West, especially for those who love the more serious, gritty fantasy tones of the Zelda series. But although he's not a fairy, it's impossible to deny that there is some real magic to Tingle. Whether you love him or hate him, whether you want him to return or not, he represents the charming weirdness of his creators, the sheer, unapologetic craziness that makes Nintendo games so special and so memorable. To Westerners, Tingle is creepy mostly because we don't really understand him. His inspirations, his humour, are quite jarring and alien. But is that enough to say that he should remain in Zelda's history? Should we, like the residents of Windfall Island, lock him up for his strangeness? Or will we one day see the grand return of the true hero in green? Only time will tell. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, leave a like, or subscribe if you haven't already for more Zelda content. What are your opinions on Tingle? Let me know in the comments if you love him or if you hate him, and if you'd like to see him return. Again, a huge thank you to Raycon for sponsoring this video. You can grab your own pair of Raycon everyday earbuds using the link on screen or found in the description. Cheers guys, and I'll see you next time.